Hey everyone, it's Kogi from creativekogi.com and welcome to day 2 of Not Just Your Basic Granny Square. Thank you for showing me progress and posting your pictures in the thread provided, and I do hope you are having lots of fun. So let's get started. Alright, so yesterday we ended up with 6 rounds, 6 very simple rounds, and we are going to do the same stitch as yesterday, which is that line of double crochets, and you can continue in the same colors if you want. It's totally up to you. I just decided I needed a new color. This is a stash buster project too, so you want to get rid of that stash. So in your chain 2 corner space, you are going to start with a standing double crochet. Okay, remember how to do this? Now you will work a half corner, and it is 2 double crochets in that corner. So yesterday I explained to you what the hidden stitch was, and we are going to skip that hidden stitch on this round and work 1 double crochet in the rest of our stitches. Okay, so you simply follow the stitches all the way to the end. It's 18 stitches that you're working with. And yeah, it's pretty much what we did yesterday. It's working your double crochet stitch, fairly easy. You can put me on pause now and go sit and watch some TV whilst you finish this round. There's nothing new to this round. It's just really super simple. Look how awesome that looks. Okay, so the corner is 2 double crochet, chain 2 double crochet. You work all the way around until you get to your starting point. I am going to stop talking at this point, and I'm going to see if I can add some music that you can listen to whilst you crochet along. Let me try that. So, did you enjoy that music? I wasn't really sure what kind of music to play. I'm playing around with this video editor, and the choices are limited. But if there's something particular that you'd like to hear, yeah, please won't you just leave me a comment, and I'll see if I can source the music. But I'll try and play different sounds, so maybe you can tell me which ones to steer clear from and which ones I should use for future videos. Anyway, coming back to the end of this round, It's we are now going to start something quite new on the following round. So I would recommend fasten off at this stage if you're using various colors. And I'm going to show you now what I usually do when I'm lazy. So the right thing to do is do an invisible join, but I'm in a hurry. I want to show you the next round quickly. So I'm literally going to cut that thread. I'm saying thread. Cut the yarn off, and I'm going to do what I do when I'm designing blankets. Is I just simply create a little knot. So you pull the yarn through, but not all the way, and you pull that loop up, and then pull your yarn through that loop, and you create a little knot. And it's not going to get undone provided that you work that yarn away when you are finished. So there we are. Round 7 done. All right, then we are in round 8, and now I've brought in I don't even know what to call this green, but it was lying here, and I wanted to use a green specifically um, to show you this next stitch because I I like to think of it as creating a stem, and then the next round we create the little flower. So let me show you. So I start with a standing double crochet, and I work another double crochet in that chain 2 corner space. So that's my half corner. What we are now working is a V-stitch. Okay, so I'm going to skip that first hidden stitch and the next stitch. And now a V-stitch is literally a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet all in that same stitch to create a little V. So let's do that again. We're going to skip the next stitch and work another V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet all in the same stitch. See? I'm trying to bring that up closer so you can see it better. So I want to create the illusion of little stems, so that in the next round I can do my little flowers. Now, V-stitches tend to make your blankets a bit loose. So if your tension is particularly loose, I would suggest that on this particular round you use maybe half a size smaller hook. So I'm using a 4mm here, maybe a 3.5. Um, I don't really change hook sizes. I try and modify the tension slightly as I'm working. But if you are quite new and you're not quite sure what to do and you're worried about it becoming a big floppy mess, I would recommend going half a hook size down. So even though we are creating or we're leaving the skip stitch, the spaces in between the V stitch, it still has a tendency to be quite a loose stitch. Now, for those of you who are experienced crocheters, you are most welcome to not do um, a double crochet V-stitch. You could do a half double crochet V-stitch. So essentially what you would do then is do a half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet instead of the DC, and then it just creates a shorter stitch and it emphasizes the little flowers that we're going to put in on the next one a little more. Now don't panic. If you are making this blanket for a baby boy, it's okay. It's not florally flowers, if that makes any sense. It's just an effect of the stitch. So you don't have to do the green, and you could just carry on with your shades of blue or brown or whatever it is that you're working with. So essentially we're going to do that all the way around. It's 10 V-stitches that we'll be making per side. Remember to always skip that stitch in between, and your corners are your 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. Now let me see if I can find you different music for this round. Okay, so was that any better? So I was actually thinking of Glynis who's doing this during her 30-minute lunch break, and I'm trying to keep the music, the just choosing music that's not going to put her off to sleep, and just also pushing her to crochet faster because she has only 30 minutes to do this in. Anyway, we are now at the end of this round, and we should have 10 V-stitches on each side. And yeah, I'm going to do the lazy move again and just knot it because I really want to get going to show you the next round. But I promise I will work those ends in before I start with tomorrow. So if you look at it, you can see that it is creating a bit of a wave, but don't panic. You can lightly block it. I just stretch it a little bit, and it works out fine. All right, so now we're on run 9, and I've brought in my pink. This is especially for Roxanne Zumani because she loves pink. No, actually, I lie. She can't understand why there's even such a color. So I'm using it specifically to show you this pretty flowers, which can or cannot be depending on who you're making the blanket for. So you're half a corner. Now we're going to place this DC3 together in your V-stitch. Okay, so you're going to skip that first 2 stitches and work in that chain space of your V-stitch. And there you go. So it's like a double crochet, but you're not completing it. And you're pulling through 2 each time and leaving the rest of the loops on the hook. So you've done it the 3rd time, and now you have 4 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through all 4, and it creates that little flower. See what I mean? So chain 2 now, and let's do it again. Yarn over, pull a loop through 2, yarn over, pull a loop through 2. For the 3rd time, you've got 4, yarn over, pull through all 4, and chain 2. And that's your little flower. So you will work 10 of these, and you will have a chain 2 space between each of the DC3 togethers. And so yeah, can you see that? I brought it up closer. So now let me tell you about this DC3 together stitch. Usually this is worked as a decrease stitch over 3 stitches. And as we work through this blanket, we will use that stitch so I can show you what the variations are. But it's also used as a decorative stitch, like in this case, a decorative stitch to create almost like a little flower effect. You know, if you know the stitches and you know how to crochet, you could also do puff stitches. It's not my favorite. For some reason, puff stitches seem to hurt my fingers a little. Um, and I don't like the large spaces that it kind of leaves in between. You've got to do a few puff stitches in your V stitch to create a nice effect, I think. So anyway, I'm now digressing. So let me come back. So you're working 10 of those, and look how cute that looks. Okay. And now you're going to skip that last 2 stitches. You'll have to chain 1 this time, not 2. Chain 1, skip the last 2 stitches, and work your corner. So your corner is 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. So let me remind you just once more. So you've done your corner. You will chain 1. The reason why I don't chain 1 in between those DC3 togethers is because it kind of pulls it quite close. And I don't want you to end up with almost the bubble kind of effect. So we're leaving enough room for the stitch to lie fairly flat. And on our next round, we will then close up that spaces, and you'll have a very flat square. Okay, so you're basically doing this all the way around, and just keep going, and I will see you at the end of this round. What kind of music should I play for you now? Let me see. So great. What did you think of that? Was it any better than the previous two sound clips that I chose for you? Do leave me a comment. I'd like to interact with you. I'd like to know what works. I am quite new at, putting videos together and editing videos. It's not something I do often. Um, I'm not at it all the time, so I'm an absolute newbie at this, and I'd love to hear your feedback. And you need to tell me what works. So let's get back to this round. We're almost at the end now, and you've worked your DC3 togethers in your V stitch, and at that last stitch, you see I made a mistake. I wasn't paying attention, and I did a chain 2, but remember it's a chain 1 um, in each of the corners, just after um, your corner 2DC, chain to 2DC. So there we go. Um, Round 9 is now done. And again, I'm being lazy and making little knots, but I will work it away at the end of this. I will have to show you the back of this tomorrow to show you that all the ends are in. So gently ease it into shape. This is what I do. I place it on a flat surface and I just gently ease it into shape. And then I just leave it like that. And, only if it's sort of seriously wavy, then I'd block it. If you find it is quite wavy at the stage, you can block it. Totally up to you. All right, so we are on the last round for today. And, I did say I'm going to try and keep this, under 30 minutes. And so far we're doing relatively well with time. This is a quick and easy round. So standing double crochet and 1 double crochet in that corner, so half a corner worked. Now we're going to work 1 DC in each of the next 2 stitches. So we're not skipping stitches here. We're not skipping the hidden stitch. And you will then work 1 double crochet in that chain 1 space, then 1 double crochet in the top of that DC3 together, and then 1 double crochet in the chain 2 space. And essentially that's what you do. It's a double crochet in the chain space and a double crochet in the top of the DC3 together all the way to the end, and then you work your corner stitches. Now you're probably wondering why I'm not putting 2 stitches in that chain 2 space. And the reason why I'm doing that is I wanted to keep the space between the DC3 togethers to emphasize the stitch, but also not sort of draw it together and create a little sort of bunched up bubble. And what I'm doing now is still keeping the stitch count, because if I put too many stitches in, it's going to be an absolute mess and you're going to end up with something that is going to look almost like a fan. It's going to create a bit of a fan effect. So I'm very aware of the need to keep this very square. And so using the right number of stitches is important. Now, before I try and find you, another music audio clip to play, I want to show you what I sometimes do. So if it's a stitch like this, which is a fairly dense stitch, so I don't have spaces in between my stitches, what I do is I take that excess yarn. So instead of working it away, now remember I made that little knot. So, I created the little loop and I made the little knot. So it is not going to come undone. What I do then is I pull the yarn and I pull it fairly tight, and I now work all my stitches over it. So you can see me pulling it tight, and if you look now to my right, look there, it's all bunching up. I'm doing that deliberately. I'm going to show you why. So I keep working over it and I keep pulling it, and just so that I'm properly working over the stitches and catching it as I go through. I'm going over both those strands. So I'm going to do that until I've completely run out of yarn to work over. And then I keep pulling as much as it would allow me. as I work through it. So I promise you there's a method to my madness. So I keep going, um, and if you find that little bit's getting in your way, just clip it off. That's okay. It's not a problem. Just yeah, you don't want that pink to show through the white also. So you can see I've worked over it all the way through. I've created a nice little bunched effect. Now what I do is I gently ease it into shape. So I just pull, and then what happens is the end of it, it all evens up, and so the ends get hidden nicely under those stitches. So it's just something I like to do to make sure I've worked over the entire length of that excess yarn completely. So I keep it quite taut, and I keep pulling and working over until I can't anymore, and then I ease it all into shape. So then it's nicely covered. I always worry that, especially when you're making a blanket that you want to give to someone, um, you really don't want it to come undone. You want it to last, forever. Okay, so keep going, and this is essentially um, round 10. And what we are going to do tomorrow is repeat some of the stitches, but also then add on some yarn. I'm trying to keep it exciting, and I want to introduce you to as many variations as possible, but at the same time keeping with the simplicity of the whole granny square, and trying to bring in those cluster stitches as much as I can. There's just something about those 3DCs, worked in a space. Um, I don't know if you are fans of the series Friends. There used to be a granny square blanket on the couch. It's just yeah, there's just something about the typical basic granny square. So keep going. I'm trying not to mess up my yarn and create knots like I did yesterday. But yeah, it happens when you have tiny little balls yeah, it unravels. So we are almost, it's just our last row. We're almost at the end. So Matthew's been asking me for a blanket. Um and I've been thinking about what kind of blanket I should make him, and my sort of designer mind has been trying to come up with ideas. And so I showed him, you know, some options, and would you believe it, he chose a very simple granny square blanket. So, well, there you go. He's only 5. Okay, so just a few more stitches and we'll be at the end. So at this point, um, you can fasten away. You can work the ends in. We're not going to repeat this particular round tomorrow. So I would suggest do um, work it away, and start with a new color if you are using different colors. So what I want to do now is, as we've come to the end and we have a few more minutes to spare, is I want to show you that invisible join again. So let me not be lazy. Let me, as I say it, I also want to finish it quite quickly. So let me show you this invisible join. Okay, so chain 2 and pull your yarn through that loop. Okay, grab your needle. Now I'm going to try and bring this close up. So there's your chain 2, and here's your standing double crochet. So work your needle into that standing double crochet as you would if you were ending off. Now the needle through the top of that chain 2. Okay, so look at that. You've closed it and it almost looks like a stitch. I don't know if you can see it quite clearly. And now literally what you do is I go back to where that standing double crochet was, and I then work it away from that end. Um, so it just look, it's just a nice finish. It's a neat finish. I so wish I was sitting next to you so I could show it to you properly, but look at what I made, Deidre. She does a photo tutorial on the invisible join. I would strongly recommend that you go and watch it. It's basically where I learned from, and yeah, and then try it. And practice makes perfect. So there we go. We are now done. I've got some ends to work away. I'll have to do that um, before I start or before we do tomorrow's rounds. But yeah, that's it. I hope you had fun. Um, just pull your corners slightly, ease it. If you want to, you can pin it, block it. I just ease it into shape, literally like that, and it stays. It literally stays. And that's your square for today. Okay, end of day 2, and I'll see you tomorrow.